네, 그럼 이제 특별 세션, 특별 강연 소개해 드리겠습니다. 오늘 오후 순서 특별 강연 맡으신 분은요, 김기세 딜로이트 컨설팅 USA IoT 전략 총괄께서 4차 산업혁명과 사물 인터넷의 미래라는 주제로 강연 펼쳐 주시겠습니다. 여러분 큰 박수로 맞이해 주시기 바랍니다.
제가 여기 참여한 저 나름대로의 동의는 우리 원천 기술을 가진 한국의 과학자분들 그리고 엔지니어분들이 세계로 진출하실 때 기술뿐이 아니라 사업성이 극대화된 전략을 통해서 4차원 산업혁명 또는 IoT 관련 세계 주도권을 가져가시는데 좀 도움이 되셨으면 해서 참여를 했습니다. 일단 비디오를 하나 시작할게요.
Without stepping in some IoT advice. Here's the thing. You need an IoT solution that generates real value, improves revenue stream, customer relations, operations. Deloitte Digital gets it. We think big, start small, scale fast. We mine brownfields, the IoT infrastructure you likely already have. New business models, human impact. It's all yours. Deloitte Digital.
자, IoT에 대해서 미국에서도 상당히 많은 얘기가 있어요. 한 20여 년 전에는 인터넷 또는 e-commerce 해가지고 유사한 발표를 할 때 대개가 청중분들이 한 반으로 갈려요. 뭐 별거 아닌데 그냥 에볼루션 중에 하나인데 또는 이건 게임 체인저다, 이건 레볼루션이다 이렇게 갈라졌는데 지금 한 20여 년 후에 그다음에 기초적인 인터넷 인프라스트럭처가 어느 정도 갖춰진 후에 지금 저희가 인터넷 오브 띵스라는 걸 가지고 또 유사하게 강연도 하고 토론도 하고 하는데 이번에는 조금 다른 것 같아요. 그래서 저희가 정답은 없겠지만 하나의 정의를 내려보자면 우리가 보는 이 physical element, 만질 수 있는 모든 것들에 virtual twin identity, 즉 IP 애드레스를 부여해서 두 개가 같이 뭔가 활용이 가능한 퀄리티 데이터를 만들어내고 그 데이터에 의거해서 분석을 해서 뭔가 적용을 할 수 있는 의사결정을 할 수 있게 해준다면 하는 거죠. 그거를 정의로 내려봤습니다. 그래서 제가 발표 드릴 동안 제가 비디오를 또 하나 준비를 했는데 한번 요거를 염두에 두시고 봐주십시오. IoT라는 기술이 접목이 돼서 누가 언제 어디서 무엇을 또는 거기서부터 왜 어떻게 하고 있는지를 알 수 있다면 그걸 실시간으로 알 수 있다면 지금 여러분이 소속된 조직이나 하시는 사업이 어떻게 바뀔 건가 한번 그걸 생각해 봐 주시기 바랍니다. IoT라는 게 이렇게 파면 팔수록 복잡해요. 근데 또 간단하게 보자면 간단하게 볼 수 있는데 그 중간쯤에서 제가 한번 설명을 드리고자 합니다. 보시는 비디오는 저희 들로이시 네덜란드 암스테르담에 있는 건물을 저희가 말하는 IoT, Internet of Things, 그 여러 사물 중에 하나를 딱 건물을 찍었어요. Internet of Things가 뭐 테이블도 될 수 있고 의자도 될 수 있고 차도 될 수 있고 여러 가지가 될 수 있는데 그 중에 건물을 하나 찍어서 사례를 한번 말씀드리고자 합니다. 그리고 비디오를 보실 때 한 4가지 정도, 제가 아까 포괄적인 전략이라고 말씀드렸는데 기술에 관한 거, 그 안에는 뭐 sensor device 또는 how to operate, interoperate 하는 거, 그 다음에 데이터에 관해서 양질적인 데이터, 적에 관한 데이터가 complete한지, accurate한지, relevant한지, 타임스탬프가 찍힐 수 있는지, 로케이션 베이스가 확실한지, 그렇지 않다면 또는 그렇다면 그 다음에 그 데이터는 과연 오너십이 어떻게 되고 누가 그걸 가지고 어떻게 돈을 벌 수 있는지, 또 그런 기술이나 데이터가 어느 정도 정리가 되더라도 규제적으로 가능한지, 규제가 도움이 되는지 도움이 안 되는지, 그리고 마지막으로는 조직이라든지 우리가 개인적으로 컨슈머이기도 하고 조직원이기도 하고 여러 가지 역할을 하는데 우리는 그런 데이터에 대해서 말할 권리가 있느냐 등 포괄적으로 한번 생각해 보시기 바랍니다. 비디오를 보시면서요, 요 4가지 요소를 염두에 두시고 봐주시면 나중에 도움이 되겠습니다.
Welcome to the Edge. This is certifiably the greenest office building in the world. But that just might be the least interesting part about it, because the Edge in Amsterdam is also possibly the most connected office space in the world. Working at the Edge is insane. It all starts with a smartphone app developed by the building's main tenant, the consulting firm Deloitte. When you arrive at the Edge, a camera recognizes you by your license plate for automatic access. And because it's the Netherlands, there are chargers available for electric cars. Inside, things start to get interesting because you don't have a desk. No one here does. Workspaces are assigned to you based on your schedule for the day. You have options: a work booth, a meeting room, what they call a concentration room, a sitting desk, a standing desk, a balcony desk. You can even just hang out in the sun-filled atrium all day. This concept is called hot desking, and it's what allows Deloitte to have 2,500 workers, but less than half as many desks at its Dutch headquarters. The app knows your preferences, and when you arrive at your workspace, the lights dim or brighten based on your stored settings. And any of the building's massive flat screens can be instantly paired with an iPhone or a laptop. So what makes all this possible? The LED light panels developed by Philips specifically for the Edge are actually powered by low-voltage Ethernet cables, which means every light in the building becomes its own internet-connected data hub with 28,000 sensors that makes the building and its users smarter.
The building becomes a very important part of who we are and what we want to be, and we actually seen in recruitment that more people are now spontaneously coming to Deloitte because they want to work in this building.
Oh yeah, and then there's these. The building has solar on the roof and on the south-facing wall, enough to power the building and all of the electric cars, computers, and smartphones used by its employees. And those employees are kept warm by two enormous boreholes tunneling more than 400 feet down beneath the building. During the summer, the Edge pumps warm water deep into the aquifer, where it sits insulated until it can be sucked back out in the winter to warm the building. Outside, there are beehive towers and bat homes to support the local pollinators. And even the rainwater is collected to flush the toilets and irrigate the gardens.
We are planning to build a lot more buildings like these, and the next one will be smarter, and the one after that will be smarter as well. And we won't stop until all cities in the world are filled with buildings that are intelligent and that are not using any energy anymore. In the end, we will actually need less buildings in the world, but the buildings that are there will be used in a better way, will be more efficient, and will be using a lot less energy than in the past.
Sometimes the Edge just feels like it's showing off, and some of the app functionality isn't quite ready for prime time yet. But most of the time, this is all running seamlessly in the background. It's maybe the most fully realized vision of the Internet of Things the world has ever seen.
It's a building that has sustainability as an important aspect of making a good place to work. In Dutch, there is even a word for this new kind of thinking about the workspace, that nieuwe werken. In a nutshell, it means that work space is more focused on the tasks that need to be done and the working community that it's part of.
Another day at the Edge comes to an end. A custom security robot that looks a bit like R2-D2 wakes up and begins its patrols. Now, if only the app could automatically come conjure up a nice dinner recipe, maybe provide all the fresh ingredients at the end of the day to get you cooking. No surprise, the Edge has that too. Bon appetit.
So that building has been up and operating last 2.5 years. It's not like IoT in the future, maybe 5 years. It's been there for 2.5 years. In fact, it's going through the second generation. So we want to make that building being Edge 1 to Edge 2.0. This building has 28,000 sensors in it already, as the video, the Bloomberg guy did a good job. The lightings up there is LED. They're powered by Ethernet cable. right off the bat, it's a 60% reduction in your energy bill. That itself is a pretty significant. But those panels come with the sensors built in that tracks people's movement. It tracks the temperature, it gauges humidity, CO2, any other things that's relevant to make the people working in the building smooth. That's a whole user experience. $28,000, think about it. That's actually going up to about 32,000 sensors as we speak. So, as I mentioned earlier, look at the technology, the data, policies, and people. Each of the bullets in there are either enablers or barriers, or sometimes they're both. In fact, oftentimes they're both. If you look at technology, sensors, I said it's 28,000. About 5 years ago, those sensors were either too expensive or weren't working that well. 3 years fast forward, the price point has come down significantly so they can do the whole thing, entire building with the sensors. Devices. There are a lot of devices that are built into the building, and the phone is considered here as a device. If you think about, a lot of you use either Samsung or LG phones and maybe some iPhones. Those phones have anywhere between 15 to 18 sensors already in there that does a lot of detections. Perhaps 2 sensors aggregate, create the metadata that tracks that I'm taking about 10 to 15 steps. That's taking the gyroscope and a motion sensor to figure out how many steps I'm taking as an example, right? So we'll go through the technology, data, policies, and people and governance again. Think about in your own situation. I don't know who you are all. You're a student, you're an employee, you're the head of the unit, but you're running an operation of that building. If you take all these IoT elements and take advantage of enablers, perhaps take the barriers and convert it to enablers, you need to have at least one of the 3 benefits recognized. At the least, process improvement. Same thing you're doing, but do it cheaper, do it quicker, and do it better. If that's not your benefit, the whole IoT is still a fiction for you. If you can change your model, if you get more people, maybe even less people, train them in such a way they can do the right thing versus the wrong thing, that's a benefit you must recognize, at least be able to benefit from. And the third is a new business model. In the US and Europe, we talk about Uber as a new business model, but in this case, as Bernard mentioned earlier, I'll come back to the construction and real estate as an industry, how this kind of technology is enabling just completely different business model. Start with technology. Sensors, devices, connectivity, network. These are the things that you already know. Probably you know better than I can explain. If you look at it at a country level, Korea has probably the deepest penetration of all the sensors, devices, networks. One of the fastest, one of the biggest bandwidth, one of the best. Where I think we need to work on here is the back end of interoperability. When we're talking about smart building, we're talking about people walking in for a very good experience, but the buildings have to work with it. Like the video example, when you walk in with a defined preference, it knows my temperature that I like. It will automatically adjust the temperature to my liking. And if I have my colleague who is slightly different, it will adjust to a midpoint. So we both kind of compromise and use it. The network, though, building equipment manufacturers never really had to make those interoperable. It's a purpose-built to do its job well. Elevators never had to talk to anybody else. Now they have to. Security cameras potentially do just one thing. Now they have a lot of analytics built into it. That interoperability is a struggle for a lot of the manufacturers. Korea has one of the best talents, in my opinion, who can work on that. Interoperability is something that you can do plug and play. If you look at the sensors, devices, connectivity network, those are more of the enablers in most cases. Interoperability is more of the barriers. Next one, data analytics. We talked about, I guess a lot of people talk about big data, small data, right data, but however the size of the data is, and whether the sensors capture them or produce them themselves, it needs to have the 5 qualities. It has to be accurate, complete, relevant, time-stamped, and location-based. As I mentioned earlier, Now you can see who's doing what, where, and when. And from there, why and how. If you think about it as a running business, you want to know your customers. But you want to know about the customers before they walk into your door. You want to know about their past transactions, history, preference, why perhaps they are here. And when they walk in, they go to the brand new product launch or clearance on sale. Or you will know. The way you track that, I'm sure, again, you guys know better this. If it's based on the beacon Wi-Fi sensors, it will be able to track your latitude and longitude. It tells you exactly where I am. But if you use a lighting base, the ones we had in that building, you can actually hijack the camera on your phone and be able to see whether I'm looking this way or that way. Oftentimes, it doesn't matter. But if you're a retailer in a supermarket, if I'm looking at my left, I'm looking at your product. If I'm looking my right, customers are looking at your competitor's product. Does that make sense that you need to know that level? Well, product positioning is a big business. Positioning along with the campaign, along with the right time couponing, those are part of benefits within the IoT in retail setting. Excuse me. Predictive analytics. If you can tell who's doing what, where, and when, perhaps why and how, based on a lot of syndicated data, you can then start predicting. In manufacturing, that's a preventative maintenance. Your equipment is scheduled for regular maintenance another 4 weeks out, but you have operating sensors that tell you it's having a difficulty to the level now when you have a production schedule that allows you to bring the machine down, bring it down tonight. We'll do that repair without impacting your production schedule. Excuse me. Yeah, and then we'll talk about data ownership and governance just a second. In the US, and we'll talk about this policy level again, I have my own personal data. Right? Kim Gise has his blood pressure, his calorie, weight, height, cholesterol level, all of that is my data. And Europe and US, those data is very strongly protected by HIPAA regulation. In the US, if your child becomes from 17 and 18, the moment the birthday, when he turns 18, parents can no longer have access to the child, your own child's medical record. That's how stringent the requirement is. Unfortunately, if you want to share the data, it's also becoming a barrier. So if I go to Dr. A, B, C, because I need to see my primary care physician, I need to get MRI done, and then have X-ray done. My data is no good unless I share with my physicians. That's called care delivery process. Everybody has their own data. Unless you combine it, it really doesn't mean anything. But HIPAA regulation is so stringent that difficult at best, right? You have to give permission every time. You have to fill out the form repeatedly every time. But without that, it really doesn't have the whole care delivery process complete. More important than this is that your pharma company, one of the Paksanims mentioned earlier, right? If you want to make new product, new medicine, but as part of that, you need to have access to that data. The question becomes somewhat serious. Does the pharma company have a legal right to access the data? And if they come up with a new drug and make a lot of money, can they keep all that money? The people that contributed data as a patient, as a physician, as a hospital, do they have a say in it? How do you govern that? Is also an issue. Oftentimes, it's more of the barriers. Okay, privacy and security. There was a company in Korea at some point made a virtualized phone. You probably have heard about it. And oftentimes, when you have one phone issued that does your personal work and it is belonging to your company, the corporate IT usually has a lockdown. The data is encrypted at rest, data is encrypted in transit, and when you leave the company, when you lost the device, they will wipe that phone clean. Same thing with the US, right? But that data also includes your personal data, your own pictures, you own a lot of the Katok profile stuff, a lot of textings, Those are your data. Now, a lot of the issues about who owns the device. Is a company, is it you? Who pays for the data plan? Who subsidizes? In the event that device gets wiped, can you wipe the whole thing? Or your personal stuff should remain? The virtualized use case will enable you to do both and separate. I think it's a really good use case. We'll see that come back. Intellectual property, we're going to skip through this a bit. Consumers and customers. We are all, and we'll begin to start saying, you can share, no, you cannot share. You can share when, not with these people, not those people. If the consumer is controlling the data, the business, on the other hand, have to struggle with, how do I respond to that? Do I have a trust enough from people saying, no, it's okay, take the data. We trust you will safeguard. You will make the necessary adjustment when necessary, but I get bigger benefit in turn. We need to have that level of policy and the trust in place. Otherwise, this also becomes a barrier. Organizations. IT organizations typically don't necessarily work with OT. OT meaning operational. It's a factory floor. It's a retail shop. It's anything other than traditional IT. The biggest problem we have, at least in the US, is those two organizations have a different KPIs, the key KPIs in place, and they're not necessarily aligned. It's one of those things that you have to keep in mind. Unless organizations have a shared KPI and incentive, it's difficult to have the technical stuff to work. Employees and partners, same thing. The main point here, and go back to the building, when Deloitte decided to move into this one building and build it as a one headquarter building, there are 4 separate strategies got into play. A lot of what Deloitte does is in strategy space. And the biggest thing that drove this was the talent. Our asset, we have 254,000 people worldwide. Last year, we probably did about $36 billion US, but that entire revenue is based on people, the talent. In Netherlands, we had a pressure to recruit, retain, and develop the first-class talents. And what they were, especially the younger generation, what they were asking was the convenience and productive environment where they can do the work, whether it's in the office or untethered and be mobile workforce. Either case, that was part of work-life balance they demanded. We had to respond to that. Come back to the technology. We also had a place and space where we reduced our footprint, physical space, by about 40% by consolidating into one place. And it's not just reduction in place. We actually optimized scheduling portion of it so that we can figure out who really needs a space, who needs to collaborate with whom or not. Do you have to be physical? Can you do it virtual? Or if you're doing it with somebody in another country, what's the optimized way of doing it? When you put it all together, it enabled us to reduce 40% of space. In fact, we are not even using the ones we reduced to use, so we're subleasing to the other companies so they can also benefit from the IoT technologies in the building. It's a little bit more detailed, and it's an eye chart, I apologize, but you will have that in your book. Each of the bullets, especially around technology, since this is a strong forum for science, every dot, if you look at by country standpoint, Korea is probably within top 1, 2, maybe 3 in terms of making this enabler. We have a device mobility, what we call strategy, but this particular area on Earth with the Seoul in the middle, Japan, Tokyo, Beijing, Shanghai, that's about 2-hour flying radius that demand about 32% of global GDP. More important than that is all the technology, especially around mobile technologies, come out of this area. That piece, whether you're a small startup company or you're big companies with a market share globally, that's an enabler. This region has that almost as a blessing, a take it for granted. App data governance, we'll skip that. Predictive analysis, we talk about that. Interoperability, again, if companies here can make those devices interoperably work, whether it's a mobile device with the fixtures in the building or across big heavy equipment in the back end, that heavy lifting integration, or a lot of it is called middleware integration. If those things can be done in the simplest way, this will be one of the success formulas you can take it out to the market. Security, we covered most of it. I'm going to go right to the collaboration strategy. There are companies, especially in US, where not only reducing the space per se, but to enhance the user experience. And again, I gave the retail example. Healthcare is another example. Now, smart stadium is the next one, where we all go in as fans. Sometimes we have a season ticket, sometimes we're just one event. That stadium either has a soccer, perhaps baseball, perhaps basketball, but also have a concert. So different venues will have different economics in play, and be able to have a streamlined and consistent experience as a fan is almost a must-have that we currently don't have. That's another opportunity. But for that to work, again, the building has to be connected with the sensors across all equipment, so you can actually have an enhanced use case as a fan, as a stadium. The net of it is, even though it's a Deloitte partnership, they don't share the actual number, so this is approximation. Today, if you were to build a building to the cost of $40 million, and to run that building for the next 30 years to the tune of $60 million, that is your total cost of ownership for $100 million. That's usually how it is today. That building that we just shared, and a lot of other buildings that are going up, are adding about 10 to 20% more into the construction cost to make the building smart. Now, if you build that in while the building's going up, it's a lot cheaper than finish the building and somebody else comes in and retrofit the gears. Okay, so additional 10, 20% increased cost will make the building smart, has a payback of 30% reduction in operating cost. As I mentioned earlier, if the lighting's are such that you have 60% of cost right off the bat, and be able to optimize the spacing, and be able to have the route, wayfinding, collaboration. One of the technologies that are available in the market today, I won't tell you the names because you probably know, is a smart board. It's a 4K resolution TV that will replace traditional projectors, speaker phones, regular phones, Ethernet cables, in some cases, any other cables except power cable. That becomes a center of a collaboration unit that you can collaborate with the people inside the building, same conference room, or somebody across different time zone or different world entirely. Those benefits come in as a productivity gain, and guess what? That happens for the owners to revalue the assets they have. I mentioned about the process optimization. You do the same thing, cheaper, quicker, better, or operating model transformation. New business model comes into play, that whereas it used to be, as a real estate owner, you look at location, 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 where I build a building, I own that building, and that's my valuation. That's a $50 million building, and that's it. With the IoT, the connectivity and the data that gives you visibility, now you can tell whether that's really 50 million building or it's actually 55 or even 45. So the asset valuation becomes a critical part to use IoT-based technology so that they can either lease it out at a better price or longer term, maybe even shorter term. The fact is that you can now play as an option. Now, if you look at the incentives of the owner and developer traditionally, they build a building like this, they sell it, they walk away, they repeat. That's a capital play. It's big money, put down, build a building up, sell it, do it again. Then the tenants come in and put the gears. They put the lightings, the curtains, the furnitures, the network gears, and the whole 9 yards. If you look at the new business model, because of IoT now becoming available, the developer will actually add that 20% as they build a building. They will sell the building, and then they come back as the tenant. They are the anchor tenant, and they will allow the other subsequent lease tenants to use the technologies they built on a subscription basis. That's a new business model. It's not like you built it, you sell it, you go do it again somewhere else. No, you come back and then you let others use that technology you built in so that the tenants don't have to pay to build it. The tenants will pay at a consumption-based model. So like a utility, you only use what you need and you only pay for what you used. Now if you're a developer, whereas you used to be build a building and sell and walk away, that's a big money, big fat profit once, period. New business model with the IoT being implemented the right way, you have the OpEx play that has a long tail activity, and that's a recurring revenue. It's a completely different ballgame, different business model. I'll pause here. I think I've exhausted exactly 30 minutes. Just one tidbit. When you talk about all that big things, you might run into the BTO syndrome, boil the ocean. You do too much analysis, you spend too much time looking at the numbers, not be able to make anything happen in time, right? So we ask everybody to try this because it works for us. It's been proven. Think big. Eventually, this is what you want to do. But start with the small, something that you can tangibly manage, be able to determine whether it's good, bad, and if you're going to fail, fail fast. Fail fast, repeat that, fail faster, repeat that, and you will get to the right one. When you find the right formula, then you scale up very fast. It's just simply put what we call a method, not even a methodology. There. Again, I try to use building as an example of what IoT could be so that we can better relate. But the technologies, the data and analytics platform, the people element of it, the regulation policies, all need to come together. Oftentimes we see a lot of startups with a good 원천 기술 out of Korea. They come to US, they come to Europe and go, not happening. Because from a buyer standpoint, those four elements are all a comprehensive buying decision that we have to be aware of. I'll pause here. If you have any questions, we'll address that.
자, 우선 특별 강연 이렇게 멋진 말씀으로 꾸며주신 김기세 전략총괄님께 한번 큰 박수 먼저 부탁드립니다. 네. 저희 앞서서 예고해드린 대로 이 특별 강연 순서만큼은 여러분들의 질문을 저희가 핸드폰, 이 스마트 기기를 통해서 받기로 했는데요. 안내를 몇 번 해드렸는데 정말 너무나 많이 질문을 올려주셨습니다. 그래서 감사드리고요. 저희가 시간 관계상 이 중에서 딱 2개의 질문만 저희가 뽑아서 지금 질의 Q&A 시간을 좀 갖도록 할 텐데요. 우선 첫 번째 질문부터 띄워주시죠. 네. 제가 한번 읽어드리겠습니다. 한국말을 잘 못하신다고 하셨고요. 많은 물건들의 IoT 기술이 적용되고 있습니다. 그러나 절대로 IoT 기술이 입혀지지 못할 것 같다고 생각하는 물건에는 무엇이 있습니까? 라는 질문을 해주셨는데요. 네, 답변 부탁드립니다.
저 답은 잘 모르겠어요. 질문하신 분이 한번 대답해 주실래요? 뭐를 생각하시고 그런 질문을 하셨는지?
예, 혹시 이 질문 올려주신 분 설명 조금 더 들어볼 수 있을까요?
좀 부연 질문을 해주시면 아니면 제 생각엔 이래요. 아까 말씀드린 대로 어떻게 한국말로 해야 되지 이건 이제 이런 것들 있지 않습니까? 저희가 말하는 physical element 이런 것들이 다 그 나름대로 자기 IP 애드레스가 주어질 거예요. 그래서 아까 말씀드린 것처럼 데이터라는 것 자체도 지금은 뭐 얘도 데이터가 있어요. 이거 만드신 공장에서 분명히 뭐 높이, 넓이, 색깔, 제품 그게 다 있겠지만 그건 그냥 스태틱 데이터예요. 캐탈로그에 있을 뿐 그걸로 물건 팔면 끝일 뿐이지만 앞으로는 얘가 센서가 있을 거고요. 저 여러분이 앉아 계신 의자에도 센서가 들어갑니다. 최소한 2개는 들어가요. 하나는 weight, 몸무게, 하나는 이 movement. 그게 어디 쓰여지냐면요. 특히 미국에 죄송합니다. 미국 사람을 제가 제일 잘 알기 때문에 미국에서 지금 그 바뀐 규제 중에 하나가 수술을 받고 환자가 퇴원을 했을 경우 30일 안에 유사한 증세로 다시 입원을 하게 되면 보험회사에서 벌금 형식으로 페널라이즈를 합니다. 그렇기 때문에 병원 입장에서는 옛날에는 그냥 수술해서 퇴원 그거 인스트럭션 줘서 뭐 잘하세요 하고 했으면 그만이었고, 만약에 환자가 다시 오면 또 한 번 수술하고 오히려 그게 더 도움이 됐는데, 지금은 그게 바뀌어서 환자가 퇴원해서 30일 안에 유사한 형태로 다시 입원을 하면 보험회사에서 줘야 될 돈이 많이 깎입니다. 그렇게 되다 보면 무슨 현상이 벌어지냐면, 첫째, 디스차지 인스트럭션을 줄 때 그냥 이렇게 주는 게 아니고 그 준 대로 잘 하는지 들어갈 수 있는 모든 오토메이션이 다 따라갑니다. 첫 번째, 약 받지 않습니까? 처방약을 딱 열 때 이게 몇 시에 열렸는지, 몇 분 동안 열렸는지 닫혔는지가 블루투스 센서를 통해서 폰을 통하든지 게이트웨이를 통하든지 라우터를 통하든지 갑니다. 의사한테 가고 병원한테 가고 약국에 갑니다. 근데 환자가 이걸 안 지켰다라는 걸 증명을 할 수 있으면, 이게 참 어떻게 보면 죄송한 말씀인데, 미국 병원 입장에선 분명히 다 했는데 환자가 안 지켰다라고 증명을 할 수 있으면 처벌이 아니고 그 피널라이즈 받는 거에 대해서 웨이브를 받습니다. 그렇죠? 그다음에 어느 정도 이 뭐 30일분인데 어느 정도 내려갔다 그러면 누가 그다음에 제일 좋아합니까? 제약회사가 자동 리필을 보내줍니다. 그 자동 리필도 함부로 못 보내요. 미국에서는 어느 정도 날짜가 지나갔다라는 거가 있어야 돼요. 근데 실제 환자가 그걸 먹지 않고도 가서 며칠 지난 후에 약을 받을 수 있어요. 지금은. 근데 이런 IoT 기술이 들어가면서 그렇게 못합니다. 실제로 먹었는지를 알기 때문에. 그리고 어떤 필들은 그 약 자체에 센서가 있어요. 그래서 몸을 통과할 때 쭉 가면서 그 데이터를 보내줍니다. 하나 이해해요. 자, 그러면 왜 의자가 중요하냐? Cognitive, 뇌에 약간 현상이 있어가지고 이 중심을 잘 못 잡는 환자가 수술을 받고 퇴원했을 때 그 환자가 앉아 있는 의자가 이게 움직이는 게 정상이 아니다라는 걸 디텍트를 하면 이 본인이 갖고 있는 전화기든지 무슨 센서하고 의자하고 그 애널리틱스를 맞춰서 신호를 보냅니다. 만약에 넘어졌다. 미국에는 이 노인분들이 많이 다치세요. 넘어져서 무릎 다치고 허리 다치고 큰 문제예요. 큰 문제라는 게 의료적으로 큰 문제이기도 하지만 보험 입장에서 보면 경제적으로 큰 문제예요. 그래서 어떻게 하든지 안 넘어질 수 있도록 도와주는 그런 기술들을 많이 보냅니다. 그 기술 자체가 어느 정도 가격이 있지만 실제 또 넘어져서 다쳐서 또 수술하시는 것보다는 싸기 때문에 적용이 되는 겁니다. 그래서 의자도 하다못해 IoT 기술이 접목이 돼요. 자, 그런 차원에서 안 되는 게 뭐냐 잘 모르겠어요.
네.
제 생각에는 이 economic value, 그러니까 경제적인 가치가 보여지면은 센서가 다 붙습니다. 또
네,
다음
알겠습니다. 일단 답변은 제한은 없다라는 쪽으로 주셨는데, 예, 사물 인터넷 기술 전문가께서 와서 설명해 주셨는데 절대로 적용되지 않은 건 무엇인가라는 질문에 대해서 아마 이런 차원에서 좀 미래를 보시려고 질문을 주신 것 같습니다. 자, 다음 질문 보겠습니다. IoT를 구현해서 얻을 수 있는 새로운 비즈니스 모델은 무엇이 있을까요? 라고 물으신다면 정말 여기 계신 분들 다 궁금해하신 내용이고 답변도 굉장히 방대하게 해주실 수 있지만 저희가 시간 관계상 좀 짧게 답변 부탁드리겠습니다.
짧게요. GE 다 아시죠? General Electric. GE의 비즈니스 모델을 보시면 최근에 그 큰 회사, 거기도 재벌 회사, 컨글로머레이션은 여러 가지 다양한 자회사를 거느렸는데 최근 얼마 전인가부터 금융에 관련된 모든 회사는 다 매각을 했습니다. 그 GE라는 회사를 놓고 보면 매출 기준으로 보면은 거진 40%에서 50%의 매출을 생성하는 자회사들을 다 없앴고요. 순이익으로 보면은 거진 유사하게 40%, 50대를 다 매각했습니다. 그리고 뭐에 집중하겠다? IoT가 접목된 신기술이 활용되는 것만 하겠다. 근데 그게 실제로 뭐냐? 비행기 엔진을 안 팔겠다예요. 대신에 엔진은 우리 자산에 두고, 회사 자산에 두고 그 엔진이 탑재된 비행기에 업타임으로 차지를 하겠답니다. 그래서 뭐 100만 불에 팔고 말았던 거를 100만 불에 안 팔고 비행기에 실어서 그 비행기가 엔진 결함으로 다운타임이 되지 않는 이상에는 업타임으로 차지를 하겠다예요. 그게 훨씬 더 profitable-합니다. 그리고 뭐 슈나이더, 시먼스, 필립스, 허니웰 이런 건물에 들어가는 큰 이퀴프먼트들 회사도 마찬가지예요. 뭐 10 million, 20 million, 100 million까지 가는 거를 옛날엔 그냥 팔고 말았던 것, 그저 약간의 유지 보수만 해주던 그 모델에서 완전히 자산을 그냥 가진 채로 이 flexible consumption model로 바꿔서 그냥 우리가 다 설치해드리고 운영해드릴게요. 업타임에 대해서만 유틸리식으로 차지를 할게요. 그게 더 longer, long time revenue, recurring revenue, almost annuity 포맷으로 되기 때문에 그게 훨씬 더 프로핏한 모델이 됩니다. 그래서 큰 기존 회사들이 그런 식으로 가고요. 자그마한 회사들도 마찬가지입니다. 그냥 단순하게 아까 우리 버나드가 얘기했던 것처럼 프로덕트 이코노미가 아니라 그 프로덕트이 실제로 이런 IoT 기술이 접목이 돼서 어떻게 활용이 되느냐 하는 그 experience based 이코노미가 되기 때문에 소비자들도 혜택을 받고 회사도 그 이 레베뉴 모델 자체를 바꿀 수가 있습니다. 그렇게만 말씀드릴게요.
네, 고맙습니다. 저희가 아쉽지만 오늘 여기서 특별 강연은 마무리 지어야 될 것 같습니다. 지금까지 좋은 말씀 전해주신 딜로이트 컨설팅 USA 김기세 IoT 전략총괄님께 여러분 큰 박수
감사합니다.
부탁드립니다. 네, 고맙습니다.